Shall we?
I don't think we're quite there yet.
Shadowhunters heads to Paris, so let's break down Season 3, Episode 12 and find out just what happened. What is up, all you lovely people? Lisa here, and welcome back to Shadowhunters Monday, right? First, I want to say thank you to all of you in the comments who let me know that I wasn't going crazy, that it was Jace in the books that's binded or bound or whatever you say to Jonathan, and they changed it up for this show. Some of you expressed that you liked the idea of them changing it up, that the stakes were higher, some of you didn't. But I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see how that storyline flows. But in this week's episode, which is titled Original Sin, we find Simon tracking down the mysterious oldest vampire known, while Clary and Jonathan head to Paris. And of course, you throw in some Malik and Sissy moments, and you have a pretty good, well-rounded episode, I think, at least in my opinion. And can I just say that Luke Baines, you creepy AF, man. Okay, not the actual actor, but the way that he is playing this role of Jonathan, bringing the subtle creepiness and then the really frightening creepiness that's in your face. Like, literally, there were a couple times when he would just give looks, or the way that he would say something on screen that, like, I did feel some of the little hairs on my arm stand up. I don't have a lot of hairs, but I felt them stand up. So kudos to you, man, for bringing a new spin on this role and really, making my skin crawl sometimes. Anyways, let's just go ahead and dive into this episode. First up, we gotta talk about Magnus and Alec and all their cuteness in this episode. Seriously, these past 2 episodes have given us a lot of Malik, and I'm totally here for it. So Magnus, he's still getting used to his human life, not having magic, and since he now knows that he may only have 40 years or so, which honestly is a lot of years left, he feels like his time is more precious now, and he doesn't want to waste any of it. So he is just gung-ho to fill every second of the day with stuff he's always wanted to do, which means dragging Alec along for it. He's also trying to figure out a nickname to give Alec, I guess, which is kind of cute and cringy at the same time, but maybe more cute.
Come on, pup. Time to rise and face the day.
Pup?
Panda?
No.
Okay.
We then get an awesome training scene between Magnus and Alec, and you know, Magnus finds out he's not as rusty as he thinks. Like, this dude has got some serious moves. Like, damn, who knew a headlock and all of this testosterone could be such great foreplay for Magnus and Alec? But it is, and as soon as they finish, you know what, Magnus is ready to continue their plans for the day, making every moment count, dragging Alec along all over town to museums and restaurants and all of this, until Alec finally just has to put a stop and be like, dude, Magnus, take a breath.
The thing about moments is that you'll miss them if you're always running after the next one.
Their sweet kiss, though, is interrupted by a fire message sent by Jace, because during this time, Jace has gone back to see Luke and to tell Luke that he was right and apologize. They end up tracking the same kind of activity that happened the night Clary disappeared and stuff to Siberia, where they go and find female tracks in the snow and what looks like Clary's hair in a tree. So then they return to fill in Alec and Magnus to try to figure out if they can track down Clary. Magnus ends up telling them there's only a handful of places that they could probably go, so they gotta start doing their research. Meanwhile, Jonathan has taken Clary to Paris, and of course she's always wanted to go, but I'm pretty sure it's not like this. Not in a teleporting apartment forever bound to your creepy AF demonic brother. But alas, Jonathan of course keeps trying to tell Clary they need to get to know each other. They can be allies. They'll be good for each other. She makes him good. All of this while Clary continues to resist until she's like, wait, I kind of got to go along with this if I'm going to have any chance of getting out of here. I got to play along. So when Jonathan says he's going to go out to get supplies, Clary asks if she can go along, so they get in their little disguises to cover up their wounds, and then Jonathan changes Clary's hair. Yeah, every little move Clary tries to pull, thinking Jonathan won't catch it, like asking for her stele to change her hair, or asking to go to the museum, which just happens to be by the Paris Institute, stuff like that. Jonathan is on top of it, ready to, you know, figure out alternate things and take her other places because he knows what she's up to. This kid's pretty smart. So instead of going to the art museum, they end up going to a cafe where Jonathan tells Clary about how this is the place where he first met Sebastian, and then continues to tell his sob story. But Clary, she's pretty distracted by the phone the lady next to her has that's on the table. She's trying to think of ways that she can get that without Jonathan looking, but she's unsuccessful, and they leave to head to the antique store where Jonathan wants to get Clary a present, the Morning Star sword, which he hears has surfaced in Paris. Yeah, if Jonathan gets his hands on that sword, I don't think it's going to be a good thing. Now, on their walk, though, Clary purposefully bumps into a hot shadow hunter as they're walking across and shows off her pickpocketing skills as she grabs his stele. That shadow hunter reports his stele stolen, which tips off the gang back home that Paris is probably the place they should look first. Jonathan and Clary reach the antique shop, which is actually run by a demon, but he won't talk to Jonathan about business because of Clary and her Nephilim blood. So Clary ends up waiting outside, which Jonathan was reluctant about first, but knew he kind of had no choice if he wants this sword. And it seems like he really wants this sword. When the shop owner demon asks who he's doing business with, Jonathan gives his full name, and then this demon's like, yeah, no deal, man. I'm not about to put something this powerful as this sword in the hands of a Morgenstern. You know, Jonathan doesn't like this, so he breaks out his demonic pitch black eyes to threaten this guy, but the demon, he just says he already sold the sword, and he won't tell Jonathan who it is, which ends up being a death sentence for that demon. Jonathan then starts snooping around the books to figure out who the demon sold this sword to, but he is interrupted when he gets a sharp pain in his arm, realizing Clary is gone. You see, outside, hot Parisian shadow hunter returns to find Clary outside the shop trying to send a fire message with the stolen stele, and he stops her and then grabs her to carry her back to the Institute to turn her in. Meanwhile, Clary's just trying to tell this guy that she is Clary Fairchild, but he's like, nah, Clary and Jonathan are dead. So to prove herself, she gets that stele and changes her hair back to her fiery red locks. And at that moment, Jonathan shows up behind the shadow hunter and kills him, and then he grabs the terrified Clary and hauls her off. They then stop to argue conveniently with the Eiffel Tower in the background, just in case you didn't know we were in Paris still. And Jonathan is like, it felt good to kill like that and to do it for Clary, and he thinks she makes him good, and this is like a sign of him being good, but Clary's just kind of like, dude, like, killing is not good and it shouldn't make you feel good. But Jonathan is a quick one, and he brings up Clary killing Valentine and asks if that felt good, to which Clary, of course, has no comment. Then as Clary asks Jonathan what he's planning to do with the sword, up run Jace, Luke, and Alec from behind, and thankfully Clary has enough time, a second, whatever it is, to tell them to not hurt Jonathan or they'll hurt her. So then they're kind of standing there like looking confused and dumbfounded, like, how the hell is this going to work? How are we going to get Clary back? Well, Clary has a plan. She grabs Jonathan's dagger and just shoves that thing right into her leg, of course, causing Jonathan pain, and he runs whimpering off while Clary is reunited with Jace, of course, with some kisses nicely placed in front of the Eiffel Tower, like a little postcard, right? Pretty romantic. And while they're kissing, Jonathan runs off to the apartment and has the ultimate temper tantrum. Like, that is an intense, yeah, don't want to mess with that temper tantrum guy. As for Simon, he and Izzy brave it in the tunnels, and Simon eventually finds the oldest vampire he's been looking for, who also bears the mark of Cain on his forehead, because, guess what? He's actually Cain, as in Cain and Abel, as in the son of Adam who killed his brother. And yeah, everything was Lilith's fault, we learned, because Adam dumped Lilith to go out with Eve, and well, that's a jilted lover if I've ever seen one. Anyway, Cain fills Simon in on his whole story, and then when Simon says he wants to get rid of the mark of Cain, Cain tells Simon he has to go see the Seelie Queen and to bring her the rock that he used to kill Abel. Now, Cain also mentions he did attempt once to remove the ritual, but didn't finish it because he was too afraid to die, which kind of shakes Simon up a bit, but he's determined to get that mark off his head, so he and Izzy go to the Seelie Queen. And you can see a bit of the future of Sizzy on the horizon when Meliorn asks Izzy if, Simon's her boyfriend, and she's like, no, but Meliorn's like, well, if you ever, want to do something, the three of us. Yeah, those Seelies kind of kinky, right? Anyway, Simon tells the Seelie Queen and Izzy that he's sure he wants to go through with this ritual, even if it means death, because he doesn't want to hurt any of his loved ones again. So Simon does the ritual. He manages to pretty much seem like survive, but is really close to the edge of death. Like, this guy needs blood fast. And Izzy runs to him, and the Seelie Queen says that if Simon's going to survive, he's going to need a lot of blood from a mortal or Nephilim. So Izzy cuts herself and pours some of her blood into Simon's mouth. And it's only a bit, but it seems to start to get Simon to revive. And then the Queen tells Izzy that it's going to take a lot more blood than that, so Izzy rolls up her other sleeve and offers it to Simon, telling him to drink. Now, he says he can't, but she insists that Simon does it, so Simon takes that bite and drinks until Izzy passes out. Man, tragic situations really bring people closer together, right? especially the drinking of blood type ones. And with that, we end the big moments of this week's episode of Shadowhunters. So Clary, she is back with her crew, but what's to say that Jonathan is not going to just torture himself to fuck with her? Like, he seems like a masochist, that he would do anything to make sure Clary is not with Jace and all of that, and that she would come running back to him or something to be like, okay, if I'm not with you, you're gonna keep hurting me type thing, right? Yeah, I don't know. I could see him pulling that kind of move. I also kind of get like these Gollum feels from him, right? With like how Gollum was so obsessed with his precious little ring, and Jonathan's so obsessed with Clary, and it's like they can't be without each other. Unfortunately, that kind of thing, right? Does anybody else get those sort of feels? Anyway, I'm excited to see what happens next with that storyline, and then with Simon and the mark, was it actually removed? Like, what happens to him now? Is he still a daylighter? What happens with Izzy? You know, he drank her blood, all this kind of stuff. And really, what is Jonathan planning to do with this sword? Like, who is he gonna track down? Whoever that guy sold it to? I don't know. I need to know, though. So let's watch the promo for the next episode.
I love you, Clary. Just you and me.
It's never gonna be just you and me. It's Jonathan, too.
He's burning himself.
You want me to challenge Russell for Alpha?
You're alpha material. You're willing to put the pack before everything else.
They've tortured Darwell because of this, and you want to turn a blind eye?
You didn't raise us like that.
I raised you to survive.
All right, it's time for you all to hit me up in the comments down below and let me know your thoughts on this episode. Like, what were your favorite cute moments? What were your favorite intense moments? Do you like that they changed it from Jonathan being bonded to Jace to being bonded to Clary? Are you rooting for Simon and Izzy? And are there any cliffhangers that the show hasn't addressed yet that you hope that they do soon and that they wrap up as the show comes to an end? Let me know down in the comments, and you can click right over here or down there to subscribe. Hit that bell so you don't miss any of my videos, and then you can check out more of those videos right over here. As always, I'm Lisa. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time for more Shadowhunters fun.